Ma'am, shall we start now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can start.
मालविका मैम, सभी लोगों से रिक्वेस्ट है कि अपनी वीडियो ऑन करेंगे, थोड़ा अच्छा लगेगा प्लीज।
Jai Hind and good afternoon to everyone. I am Malvika Dadu, a PhD scholar of Mahavir University, Meerut. Extend my heartfelt greeting to all the respected dignitaries, professors, distinguished resource persons, faculty members, and enthusiastic research scholars who've joined us on this platform today. Today marks the 8th day of our prestigious 10-day national seminar on research methodology in humanities and social sciences, organized by the Faculty of Education, Mahavir University, Meerut, in collaboration with the Principals Association of College of Education, PACE. We are delighted to have your gracious presence as we begin this academic journey together, one that promises knowledge, insight, and meaningful learning. Thank you once again to all for connecting with us here. To begin this auspicious program, let us seek the divine blessings of Goddess Saraswati, the goddess of knowledge, wisdom, and learning. So please join us for the Saraswati Vandana.
शिशु है अज्ञानी माता, इन चरणों का प्यार दे। वीणा वाणी तार दे, तार दे, तार दे, माँ सरस्वती शारदे, माँ सरस्वती शारदे। ध्यान को मूर्ख हम नहीं जाने जननी, पूजन वंदन ध्यान को। आदि शक्ति कर क्षमा हमें, आदि शक्ति कर क्षमा
Thank you, sir. I now take the pleasure to invite a respected academic leader, a visionary, and the guiding force behind the Faculty of Education, Dr. S.P. Singh, sir, Dean and Professor, Faculty of Education, Mahavir University, Meerut. Sir has contributed significantly to the growth of teachers' education and research practices. His continuous encouragement and academic leadership inspires both faculty and students alike. I humbly request Dr. S.P. Singh, sir, to please deliver the welcome address.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Respected guest, esteemed resource person of the day, honorable chairpersons, distinguished academicians, research scholars, teachers, dear participants, good afternoon, one and all present here. It gives me immense pleasure and a deep sense of academic satisfaction to warmly welcome to 8th day of our 10-day national seminar on the theme Research Methodology in Humanity and Social Sciences, being jointly organized by the Faculty of Education, Mahavir University, Meerut, in collaboration with the Principals Association of College of Education, PACE. On behalf of the Mahavir University and the organizing committee, I extend greetings and sincere thanks to all the participants who have been consistently enriching this seminar through their presence, interaction, and scholarly engagement over the past stage. The enthusiasm, participation of the academicians, researchers, and students from across the country truly reflects the relevance and necessity of such academic deliberations in today's research ecosystem. Today is a significant day in our seminar series as we focus on one of the most critical and sensitive dimensions of research, ethical publishing and research integrity. I am delighted to formally welcome our esteemed resource person for the day, Dr. Smriti Malhotra, Assistant Professor, Amity Institute of Education, Amity University, Noida, Uttar Pradesh. Dr. Smriti Malhotra is a distinguished academician with rich experience in our teacher education, research guidance, and scholarly publication. Her academic insights, clarity of thoughts, and commitment to ethical academic practices makes her eminent suitable to guide us on today's vital topic. We are indeed fortunate to have her with us today. And I extend a warm and respectful welcome to her on the behalf of all of us.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
The topic for the today's deliberation, ethical publishing, authorship, plagiarism, and research integrity, is not only a timely but also a indispensable in the contemporary research landscape. In an era marked by the rapid expansion of publication, digital databases, and AI-assisted research tools, maintaining ethical standards has become both more challenging and more essential than before. Ethical publishing is the backbone of the credible scholarship. Issues related to the authorship ethics, such as fair credit, accountability, and transparency, demands serious attention, particularly in the collaborative and interdisciplinary research. Similarly, plagiarism, whether the intentional and unintentional, poses a grave threats to the academic honesty and originality. Understanding its forms, consequences, and preventive strategies is crucial for the every researcher, especially young scholars remarking on their academic journey. Further, research integrity goes beyond the avoiding the misconduct. It encompasses the honesty in the data collection, analysis, interpretation, and reporting. Upholding integrity ensures that the research contributes meaningfully to the knowledge creation, social development, and policy formulation. In humanity and social sciences, where research deeply engaged with society, culture, and human values, ethical responsibility becomes even more profound. Through today's session, we expect not only the conceptualization, understanding of the ethical publication norms, but also the practice guidance on the best practices in the institutional guidelines, UGC regulations, and global standards of the academic ethics. I am confident that Dr. Smriti Malhotra's lecture will be enlightened us, provoke critical reflection, and empower our participants to become the responsible and ethical researcher. Before I conclude, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to the Principals Association of the College of Education, PACE, for their continued collaboration and academic support. I also acknowledge the tireless efforts of the organizing committee, faculty members, technical team, and volunteers who are working behind the scenes of to ensure the smooth conduct of this seminar. Once again, I extend a warm welcome to our esteemed resource person, Dr. Smriti Malhotra, and to all the participants attending today's seminar. I wish today's deliberations great success and hope they will be significantly contribute the strengthening ethical consciousness in the research and publication practices. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your insightful and encouraging words. Today, we are honored to begin the workshop with an eminent academician, Dr. Smriti Malhotra, Assistant Professor, Amity Institute of Education, Amity University, Noida. To formally introduce our distinguished resource person, I invite Ms. Asha Junjunwala, PhD Scholar, Mahavir University, Meerut. Asha ji, please take over the screen.
So much, Malvika. Good afternoon, everyone, and a warm welcome, ma'am. We are
Thank you. Thank you so much.
too happy to have you here. And I would formally introduce you by saying that Smriti ma'am is an assistant professor in Amity University, and where she has been serving since 2016. She specializes in educational technology, educational psychology, teacher education, guidance and counseling, also sociology of education and pedagogy of science. She holds a PhD in education from Jamia Millia Islamia and a UGC NET qualified JRF, and has also a scholarship holder with both B.Ed from University of Delhi and M.Ed from Jamia Millia Islamia, securing a position of merit. Dr. Malhotra has a strong research profile with over 40 researches, publications, several book chapters, and books to her credit, and has actively guided PhD scholars and postgraduate research workers. She is associated with reputed professional bodies such as NCERT, AIAER, and IATE, and regularly contributes as a resource person and reviewer in national level of academic programs. With her vast academic experience and dedication to educational innovations, we are truly privileged to have her with us today. So please warmly welcome along with me, Ma'am Smriti Malhotra. Ma'am, I would just like to add one more point. We are closely associated with Amity since 20 more years. I'm already a working teacher over there, and my daughter is pursuing psychology honors from Amity University.
And that's great. That's great.
So we are closely knit
Yeah,
with Amity.
that's great. And thank you for inviting me, Shivpal sir. Thank you for providing this opportunity. And I'm really sorry that I am facing some technical issues in my camera today. I'm logged in from my mobile, so two screens you will be viewing. So, yeah. So I'll just share my screen and we'll start with the session.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it visible? The presentation is visible, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So,
मैम स्क्रीन को फुल कर लीजिए.
हाँ जी वो मैं कर रही हूँ. Visible now?
Right.
Okay. So, starting with research ethics, I'll just brief you regarding this. So, we are having a set of guidelines and principles which are shaping and guiding the way in which any research is designed, conducted, managed, used, or disseminated. And the research should offer maximum benefit and minimum risk or harm to the participants involved in the research. It should respect the rights and dignity of people involved. Participation in the research process should be voluntary and prior informed. Research must be conducted with transparency and integrity, and the responsibility and accountability of the researcher should be fixed in advance of starting the research. The freedom of researcher should be maintained and avoiding of the plagiarism, in which we will be discussing in detail in the coming slides. Coming to the ethical considerations, which serve multiple purposes, including ensuring the validity of research outcomes, protecting the dignity and rights of the participants, preventing misconduct, and upholding societal trust in the scientific advancement. Now, if I talk about some of the principles of research ethics, where the honesty and integrity is the first and foremost, that the researcher should present their findings accurately and truthfully. Misleading data can distort the body of scientific knowledge and result in incorrect conclusions. Here, I would like to add that objectivity in the data collection should be there, in the all the processes of the research should be there. So here you have to avoid biases in data collection, analysis, and interpretation. So this objectivity will ensure that the results are reliable and not influenced by any personal or financial interest of the organization. Another thing is, confidentiality and privacy of the information. So whosoever is participating in the research should know that, okay, I am a participant in the research and how I will be, contributing. Plus, my identity will be kept confidential. It is not that I should face the repercussions of whatever information I am revealing as a participant of the research process. So if that harms me in any part of the research, so my privacy is leaked, or maybe my identity is disclosed that I am the one and I will be caught for, leaking the information, then definitely no participant would like to come forward for the research. And this is the first and foremost thing, that confidentiality and the privacy of information has to be maintained by the researcher. Coming to the informed consent, when I say that informed consent, that I should know that what are the rights as a participant and what potential risk can be caused to me while participating in the research process. So I should be fully aware as a participant of the nature of the study, whether I will be used as an experiment, or maybe what are my, responsibilities for this research, and how I have to give my consent also. That is very, very important. Whether I'm giving my consent verbally, or maybe I am, giving in it writing that I will not withdraw from the research, provided my identity is retained. Okay, then coming to the respect for intellectual property, where I'm talking about the proper acknowledgement of sources. avoidance of plagiarism, and adherence to copyright laws, which are essential both in academic and in professional research. Also, the social responsibility, where my research should contribute to the societal well-being and should not harm to the people, animals, or the environment. So, if I'm conducting, any research as a researcher, it is my moral and social responsibility that I have to think about the social well-being. And my research should not cause harm to the people, the environment, or maybe if I'm using animals as a part of my research. Coming to the transparency and accountability, the researchers must disclose their potential conflict of interest and remain accountable for their methodologies, findings, and interpretation to the organization where they are working and where they are conducting this research. Coming to the principle of beneficence, where it is implying attempts to maximize benefit and minimizing the risk of potential harm to the human subject or the society for where the research is being conducted. Principle of distributive justice, where I'm talking about the equitable selection of human subjects, and I don't have to discriminate the subjects on the basis of their caste, creed, religion, age, language, status, gender, disability, religion, or geographical relation. Like when I'm conducting a research, each and every participant which I want to involve in my study, there should be no personal biases that that person is belonging to a particular religion, so he should not form a part of my research. He should not be a part of my study. So, equitable distribution where we are sharing the burden as well as the benefit of the population research, and we are not discriminating on any grounds, maybe the gender ground or the caste ground, that a person is selected as a sample maybe because of his religion or because of his caste or gender. So there, the neutrality of all these things should be kept into mind while selecting the population. Obviously, if the sampling is purposive, then my research has to be confined to, a particular gender or maybe a particular caste or particular creed. But if a purposive sampling is not there, this should not form the basis for the selection of the samples for the research. Then talking about voluntarism, that where you are choosing that as a participant, it should be my choice whether to participate in the research or maybe I should be given the choice to withdraw at any time in which I'm not feeling comfortable that I need to continue to be a participant in the research. Informed consent, very important, where we are talking about that whether my consent has been taken verbally or in writing and in the manner which is, actually understood by me as a participant. So if I am a participant who is not well versed with English, so the researcher should take this into mind and he should not give me the form in English and just get it signed from me. So this is very important. So the language which I understand, in that the consent should be taken from me so that it is easy for me also to understand to give the consent and how the consent has been given. That is very important. Okay, then coming to the children or maybe who are people who are prisoners or vulnerable population, where when we say that the child below 18 years is not able to, give a consent, or maybe his consent is not applicable because of his age. So when here we are talking about, because we say that the children can be easily influenced because of their age. So as per your UNESCO's definition, anybody under 18 is considered as a child. And then we say that they can give any statement or participate in a research, and their decisions, their results might be influenced by their parents or maybe the peers. So their participation in the research calls for a question mark, and then they are not the right person to give the consent in the research. So that research consent should be taken from either their parents or their guardians. Okay, so coming to the principle of privacy and confidentiality, where you are protecting the participants, the human subjects in the research investigations from unauthorized observations and intrusions into their privacy. Researchers should maintain appropriate anonymity and confidentiality of information in creating, storing, accessing, transferring, and disposing of records under their control, whether these are written, automated, or in any medium. So, while deciding on what information should be given and what information has to be retained as private or confidential, the perspective of the participants on the matter should also be given adequate importance. So, whatever information I have collected as a part of my research, it is my responsibility as a researcher to preserve that information, and that should not leak at any point of the time, whether the research is in progress or whether the research has completed also. So it is not that when the research has concluded, I can leak the information which has been collected from the participants. So maintaining the privacy and the confidentiality of the participants during this research, and also when the research has concluded and the times to come also, it is my responsibility as a researcher to maintain that privacy and confidentiality. Okay, so principle of provision of maximal safety ensures that pre-calculating the risk or benefit ratios owing to the participation of human subjects in the research society. Then coming to the principle of your professional competency, where we are talking about the understanding that any given research investigation is being undertaken only after a peer review and thorough study of the current literature and previous studies. Coming to the principle of accountability and transparency, which enunciates that research investigators to take the onus on themselves for all the events or happenings to human subjects deemed to have occurred during a research process. The researcher should ensure that they make no false promises in the lines of benefits obtained for the participants by participating in the study, such as monetary benefit, judicial processes, or medical miracles. So you don't have to give any false promises to the participants. And it is not that you are, caring the participants in terms of monetary benefit, that you will have monetary benefit. So you participate in my research. So this accountability and the transparency has to be maintained by the researcher. Then coming to the principle of integration and mainstreaming as a human subject in this field may be from vulnerable sections of the human society who have suffered exclusion, seclusion, victimization, or separation. The responsibility of researcher gets doubled towards fostering research protocols and practices that foster social integration, inclusion, or mainstreaming of such persons, their families, or communities as a whole. And then we have already talked about that you have to maximize the benefit and minimize the harm, and where the public domain is involved. All the persons and organizations connected to the research should make adequate efforts to make public in appropriate manner and form and at appropriate time information on the research undertaken, the relevant results, and the implications for completed research. The research should be carried out in full compliance with an awareness of the local customs, standards, laws, and regulations. Okay, so the institution must ensure that the research that complies with scholarly requirements is not suppressed because the topic is controversial. So it is not that if we are taking the research on the controversial topic, so we should suppress the information or the data which has been, obtained. So coming next to the identifiable personal data collected for one particular research purpose cannot be automatically used for another research. So such data must not be used for commercial or administrative purposes. Researchers shall respect the legitimate reasons that private businesses, special interest organizations may have for not wanting information about themselves, their members, or their plans to be published. And yes, very important, plagiarism of others' text materials, ideas, research result is completely unacceptable, and it constitutes a serious breach of ethical standards. And the plagiarist undermines not only his or her own reputation as a researcher, but also the credibility of the research. The research shall strive to exercise good reference practices. Okay, so the principal investigators and researchers, they have this responsibility for preventing the research results from being presented in a misleading manner. It is unethical to place limits on research to elicit particular desirable results or to produce research results in an intentionally skewed manner. And when we are talking about the authorship credit, who is to be credited? So this authorship and its sequence in case of more than one author should be based on the quantum of contribution made in terms of ideas, conceptualization, actual performance of the research, analysis, and writing of the report, or any publication based on the research. So where when you're talking about the authorship, how much credit should be given, and whether you're the first author, the second author, or maybe the last author, that should be decided on the basis of your contribution to that research, not on the basis of your position, or maybe you are in a power position, so you are being given the first name. So that should be avoided. So where authorship and sequence should not be based on the status of the individual in the institution or elsewhere, all the other individuals not satisfying the criteria for authorship but whose contribution made the conduct and completion of research or publication possible should be properly acknowledged. So it is not that okay that if a colleague of mine is, a good friend of mine and I am promoting her and I'm wanting that okay, I will add your name in my publication although that person has not contributed in any way. So that is a question mark on the sanctity of the research when we are giving undue credit to any author who has not significantly contributed, or maybe he has or she has not contributed in any way. Okay, so strive for honesty in all scientific communications. Honestly report data, results, methods, and procedures, and publication status. Do not fabricate, falsify, or misrepresent the data. Do not deceive the colleagues, granting agencies, or the public. And strive to avoid bias in experimental design, data analysis, data interpretation, peer review, personal decisions, grant writing, expert testimony, and other aspects of research where objectivity is expected or required, avoid or minimum bias or self-deception, disclose personal or financial interests that may affect the research. So when we are talking about objectivity, don't creep in your personal biases. Okay, any biases or maybe any preconceived notions which I might be having regarding a particular research that should not be hampering the results of my present study. My personal biases towards any caste, community, or maybe my personal notions or personal experiences should not be creeping into the results of the present study, and it should not influence the study being conducted. So here when we are talking about the integrity, you have to keep your promises and the agreements, act with sincerity, strive for consistency of thought and action, the openness of sharing the ideas, results, tools, resources, be open to criticism and new ideas. So when we are talking about, it should not be that the research is in continuing one direction. I am not open to healthy criticism and I'm not receptive of others' ideas. So in my research publication, wherever I think that okay, at some point of time somebody is trying to add to my research, I should be open to the new ideas which are coming as a part of my study. So, respect for intellectual property, where we honor the patents, copyrights, and other forms of intellectual property. Do not use unpublished data, methods, or results without permission. Give credit where credit is due. Give proper acknowledgement or credit for all the contribution to research and never plagiarize. Confidentiality, protect the confidential communication such as papers or grants submitted for publication, personal records, trade or military secrets, and the patient records if it is a medical research. Responsible publication, publish in order to advance the research and scholarship, not to advance just your own career. So many a times we have seen that we are just publishing the papers in the journals so that we get good promotions or something. So it is not that it is just the research conducted for my career advancement. It is I should have the zeal that I have to contribute something to the academic part of the research. I have to contribute to the knowledge domain where, so that is why I'm conducting a research. So avoid wasteful and duplicative publications. Fabrication, when we are talking about reporting of the results from experiment that were never conducted, which also includes pictures, photographs manipulated to achieve specific interpretations. So fabrication should be avoided where we are, sometimes it happens that we are not conducting the experiment, we are not conducting the research, we are just, making Excel sheets and making fake data. And we are reporting the results from the experiments which were never conducted in practice. Okay, so fraud, when we talk about deliberate suppression of prior work in publication and improper claims to originality, or avoiding quotation from prior publication that contradict the results being presented. Non-compliance of the regulatory guidelines, where we are talking about the deliberate violations of the accepted ethical guidance for human and animal research, failure to comply with biosafety regulations, or inappropriate use of research funds. Inappropriate authorship, where we talk about the excluding two authors from the author list, including those who did not contribute, or declaring self-authorship when no significant traces of contribution were evident in the work, and withholding the data from validation, submission of data or research materials to an institution journal for review or validation purposes, wrong or fraudulent paper. If some conclusions drawn with previous publications are negated, modified, or where the error is shown to have been made by same author or others, the first papers were therefore not fraudulent. Okay, so there are many other activities which do not, define as misconduct, but which are still regarded as most by the researchers as unethical practices. So these are called as other deviation from acceptable research practices, and these are, we will be just discussing about the following. That is, publishing the same paper in two different journals without telling the editors, submitting the same paper to different journals without telling the editors, and not informing a collaborator of your intent to file a patent in order to make sure that you are the sole inventor, including a colleague as an author on a paper in return of a favor, even though the colleague did not make a serious contribution to the paper. Okay, discussing with your colleague confidential data from a paper that you are reviewing for a journal, trimming outliners from a data set without discussing your reason in a paper, using an inappropriate statistical technique in order to enhance the significance of your research, bypassing the peer review process and announcing your results through a press conference without giving peers adequate information to review your work. Okay, conducting a review of the literature that fails to acknowledge the contributions of other people in the field or relevant prior work, stretching the truth on a grant application in order to convince the reviewers that your project will make a significant contribution to the field, giving the same research projects to two graduate students in order to see who can do it fastest, failing to keep good research records, failing to maintain research data for a reasonable period of time, making derogatory comments and personal attacks in your reviews of author submissions, making significant deviations from the research protocol approved by your institutional research committee or institutional review board without telling the committee or the board, not reporting an adverse event in the human research experiment, exposing students and staff to biological risk in violation of your institution's biosafety rules, rejecting a manuscript for publication without even reading it, sabotaging someone's work, stealing supplies, books, or data, rigging an experiment so you know how it will turn out, making unauthorized copies of data, papers, or computer programs, deliberately overestimating the clinical significance of a new drug in order to obtain economic benefits. Okay, now we are coming to the key areas talking about the ethics. Here, the ethical challenges in research span various aspects from the data integrity to conflicts of interest and the responsible use of artificial intelligence in research. So, when we talk about the data integrity and scientific honesty, the fabrication, falsification, and misrepresentation of data are serious ethical violations that can lead to flawed conclusions and harm the credibility of research. So here, researchers must maintain accurate records, provide transparent methodologies, and ensure reproducibility of the results. When we talk about human welfare, So research involving human participants must adhere to strict ethical guidelines, ensuring voluntary participation, informed consent, and protection from harm. I hope I'm clear by till now. Any questions?
Yes, Tanvi.
Is it fine? Okay.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
okay. So coming to the conflict of interest, so financial, personal, or professional conflict of interest can compromise the objectivity of research. The researchers must disclose any potential biases or conflict of interest that may influence the outcomes of their study. Coming to the environment and social responsibility, research should contribute to the social progress and minimizing the harm, which we have already talked about. And coming to the intellectual property rights, where you are understanding the copyright laws which are applicable in your nation or your institution, and giving proper attribution to the sources and fundamental aspect of ethical research writing. So researchers should avoid plagiarism and ensure that they correctly acknowledge the contribution of others. The development of plagiarism detection software has helped maintain the academic integrity. Now coming to the conflict of interest. So in conflict of interest in research ethics, we are referring to a situation where the researcher's personal, financial, or professional interest may compromise or appear to compromise their objectivity, integrity, and independence. These conflicts can arise at any stage, consisting of the study design, data collection, analysis, interpretation, or publication of the research process. So, addressing conflict of interest is crucial to maintaining the credibility and reliability of the scientific research and preserving public trust in academia and industry-sponsored studies. So, what type of conflicts of interest can arise is the financial interest, where the researcher stands to benefit monetarily from the outcome of their research. These financial interests can stem from the ownership of stocks, patents, or IPR related to the research, employment, or consulting fees from companies funding the research, then personal or institutional financial investment in the entities that may be affected by the research findings, and grants and funding from organizations with vested interest in specific outcomes. Or maybe, a personal and family related conflict of interest where personal relationships can create ethical dilemmas in research. For example, when a researcher supervises or evaluates research involving close relatives, spouses, or personal friends, is involved in a study where personal beliefs, ideologies, or affiliations may compromise the objectivity and has a personal interest in a research outcome due to social, religious, or political motivations. Okay, coming to the institutional conflict of interest. So, institutions themselves can have conflict where their financial or reputational interests interfere with ethical research practices. So, this may occur, for example, when the universities push the researchers to practice or produce favorable results for industry sponsors, where we are, sometimes creating some time of fabricated research studies so that we can, produce that to the industry sponsors, and that can come as a favorable result for the universities. So research centers suppress unfavorable findings to maintain funding partnerships. Ethical oversight committees fail to act due to institutional pressures or commercial interest. Institutional conflicts of interest need to independent oversight and clear policies to prevent undue influence over research findings. Then coming to managing and mitigating, to uphold research integrity, it is essential to implement clear policies and strategies for identifying, disclosing, and managing conflict of interest. So what we can do here to mitigate the potential conflict is to maintain the transparency and full disclosure. So the researcher must fully disclose any personal, financial, or professional interest that may influence their work. Journals, institutions, and funding bodies often require conflict of interest statements to ensure transparency. Second thing is that independent and oversight and peer review, where independent ethics committee and peer reviewers play a very crucial role in identifying and mitigating the conflict of interest. The institution must establish oversight mechanisms to monitor research activities and prevent undue influence. Okay, coming to separation of financial and research activities, where We are reducing the financial conflict of interest. The researchers receive industry funding should be separate financial management from scientific decision making. Some institutions create independent research oversight over board to review funding agreements and ensure impartiality. Ethical training and awareness, where the institution should provide training programs on research ethics and conflict of interest policies to help researchers recognize, disclose, and manage potential conflicts effectively. Ethical awareness ensures that researchers can identify and address biases before they affect the research outcomes. So, now coming to ethical guidelines and institutional policies, which are talking about the academic and research institution should establish clear policies, that is, mandatory conflict of interest declaration for all research publications, regular audits and reviews of research funding sources, restrictions on researchers holding significant financial stakes in entities funding their researches. Copyright. Now, coming to copyright, which is a legal framework designed to protect the intellectual property rights of the creators, ensuring that they receive the recognition and financial benefits from their work. In short, copyright is a legal right that protects the original work of the author. In this context of research ethics, copyright plays a crucial role in safeguarding original ideas, promoting academic integrity, and preventing unauthorized use of scholarly contributions. So here, when we are talking about the copyright, which is automatic and there is no need to register for it, the symbol C, if you can see the symbol, this indicates copyright, but a piece of work is still covered without it. Copyright does not last forever and will expire after a certain period of time. It is illegal to share copyrighted material on the internet without the copyright owner's permission. So if you create a piece of work for your employer, the copyright usually belongs to the organization, okay, to the organization and not Am I audible? I think the
Yes, ma'am.
connection just broke down. The
Yes, ma'am.
connection
You
just
are
broke
Yes,
down.
ma'am, you're audible.
I'll share again. Screen is visible, no?
मैम आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही है।
I'm sorry, I think I lost the connection. So is it visible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so we were talking about the search engines where the images which are returned by the search engines do not belong to the search engine and are not free to use, even though we many a times we just search on the Google Chrome and we just copy paste and without acknowledging that from where we have taken the image. And today is in the day of AI, we get so many images but we never think whether these are free to be used in our research or maybe in our assignments or anywhere. So the images which are returned by the search engines do not belong to the search engine and they are not free to use. So the search engine has included them from a number of websites, and all of the major search engines provide a link to the website that the original image is from. So if you really want to use an image, you have to go to the original website and then see that whether it is coming under the copyright or not, and then only is it free to use or you have to take permission for its use. So there are, when we are talking about the intellectual property, there are other ways to stop your work from being copied and distributed without your permission, where you can use a trademark, that is a sign or a logo that is identifying a brand or a company, a patent. A patent protects a new idea or invention, the design, a product's visual appearance. Then coming to we have talked about this. Now coming to the author rights. So you know that you are owning the work initially, but you often grant permission or a license to the publishers for distribution without necessarily transferring the ownership. So the ownership lies with you, but you give the permission to use your document or maybe use your research or maybe the image which you have actually created. So now when we come to the licensing, so common licenses which are included is the assignment, transferring all rights to the publisher, exclusive license granting specific rights like publishing to one party, non-exclusive license allowing multiple parties to use the work, fair use or fair dealing where the legal provisions allowing limited use of copyrighted material for the research, criticism, or education without permission, open access with the models that make research freely available requiring specific copyright management. So here we are talking about the Creative Commons license. If you can see that there are different symbols. So these Creative Commons licenses define copyright. They allow the copyright owner to say exactly what other people can and can't do with or to their work. So they help the copyright owners share their work while keeping the copyright. For example, a Creative Commons license might say that other people can copy and distribute the copyright owner's work if they give credit to them. So if you see the first image, if you see this in the first image, it can be copied, modified, distributed, displayed, and performed, but the copyright owner must be given the credit. And the second image, which you can see, it is for the non-commercial, that it can be copied, modified, distributed, and displayed, but you cannot use that for using making profit out of it. Then we come to this next symbol where it shows no derivative works. So it displays that it can be copied, distributed, displayed, and performed, but cannot be modified. And then the last image, which is your share alike. So you cannot, it can be modified, the work which you are using, and distributed, but must be covered by an identical license. So if I show you this, there are different images which you can see the different symbols. So what these images are representing, that only in the last cases it is where that is CC by, where you can use the work. CC by SA, it is okay to the use. But if you see the other images which we have just talked about, you cannot freely copy anybody else's work. Okay, so now from an ethical standpoint, copyright in research ensures that intellectual contributions are acknowledged, fostering academic honesty and integrity. Researchers are expected to respect copyright laws by properly citing the resources, obtaining permission for reproducing their copyrighted material, and avoiding plagiarism. Ethical research practices also include understanding fair use policies which allow limited use of copyrighted works for educational and scholarly purposes without infringement. The growing emphasis on open access publishing has introduced new ethical dimensions to copyright. While traditional copyright laws restrict unauthorized use, open access models promote free distribution of research findings, ensuring broader accessibility. However, ethical concerns arise when the researchers fail to comply with the licensing agreements, misuse open access content, or engage in predatory publishing practices. So, India's Copyright Act of 1957, which recognizes two primary categories of rights associated with copyright, namely economic right and the moral rights. So, when we talk about the economic rights, these refer to the financial benefits that an author what the researcher is receiving from their intellectual work, and this right they are crucial for ensuring that the creator retains control over how their work is used and it is used for a monetary benefit. So if we talk about the economic right in the Indian copyright law under section 14 of Copyright Act of 1957, copyright owners have exclusive right to reproduce the work in any form including digital and print formats, distribute copies of their work through sales, rentals, or online publishing, perform or display the work publicly, translate or adapt the work into different formats. These economic rights play a significant role in research community for ensuring fair compensation for academic publications, preventing unauthorized reproduction of research papers, and regulating access to scholarly materials through licensing agreements. Then, coming to challenges related to economic rights and research ethics, while the economic rights protects authors from unauthorized use, they also raise concern in research ethics, particularly in terms of access to knowledge. The high cost of academic journals and propriety in databases often restricts access to crucial research materials, leading to issues of knowledge inequality. This has led to the rise of open access publishing, which allows free access to scholarly work while still recognizing the author's economic rights. So, how to balance the economic rights and fair use in research? So for that, there is a section 52 of Copyright Act which has allowed a limited reproduction of copyrighted material for research and educational purposes. But the researcher should ensure that use of copyrighted material is justified under academic fair use policies. The source of the work is properly credited to maintain research integrity. The content is not modified or misrepresented in a way that it is altering its meaning. By maintaining this balance, copyright law promotes ethical research while protecting the economic interests of the authors. So, coming to moral rights and their role in research ethics, so it ensures that authors are receiving proper recognition for their work and their work is not distorted or misrepresented. These rights are independent of economic rights and remain with the author, even if the work is sold or transferred. So, the main function of the moral rights is that in this moral right in the Indian copyright law under Section 57 of the Copyright Act, where the right to attribution or the paternity, there where we are talking about that, ensuring that original creator is acknowledged wherever their work is used. So, whenever you are using the work of one particular author, you have to attribute that work of the original creator who has created that idea and right to integrate it where we are protecting the work from distortion, modification, or misrepresentation that could harm the author's reputation. Talking about moral rights, where they are crucial and where the researchers have to be credited for their contribution, where you are collecting scientific data and the findings are not falsified, misrepresented, or manipulated. Plagiarism and unauthorized modification of research are prevented. Ethical breaches such as data falsification, ghostwriting, and misattribution violate moral rights and damage the credibility of research. So, upholding moral rights strengthens academic integrity and trust in the scholarly work. Now, when we are talking about the digital publishing, the Indian copyright law, which has been updated and it is addressing the electronic and digital rights also. So it is talking about protection of database and electronic journals, legal provisions against digital piracy and unauthorized sharing of research papers, safeguarding online repositories such as Shodhganga, Internet, and Digital Library of India. So the researchers must ensure that they comply with the digital copyright laws when using online academic materials. Coming to what needs to be acknowledged. So the key aspect of ethical research is the appropriate acknowledgement of contributions, ideas, data, and funding resources. Acknowledgement ensures that due credit is given to the original creators, preventing plagiarism and upholding academic honesty. It also helps in fostering a culture of transparency and accountability in research. So, acknowledgement is not just about citing the sources, but you have to recognize the intellectual contribution of the colleagues, mentors, institution funding agencies, and even the research participants. The researchers must be diligent in acknowledging all the aspects that have influenced their work, including previously published literature, collaborations, data sources, and financial support. And now coming to what you are acknowledging and how one of the fundamental ethical responsibility of the researchers is to give due credit to the intellectual contributions that have influenced their work. So here when we are talking about the ideas you have taken from any other research paper or maybe any other research. It is not only the text that you have taken from any, particular author or the researcher. And then we have to cite the previous research and literature. Any research paper, book or article that has informed a study must be properly cited using a standardized reference style such as APA, MLA, Chicago, or IEEE. You can use any of the referencing styles. So proper citation, this ensures that the researchers acknowledge the origins of ideas and avoid plagiarism. Okay, coming to that, how you have to, recognizing the collaborative efforts. So if you are working as a team, involving your co-researchers, mentors, and your colleagues, their intellectual contribution should be acknowledged. Ghost authorship, where someone who contributed and is not credited, means the person was fully involved in the research, maybe in data collection or analysis of your research findings, but is not given the due credit which he or she deserved. And the honorary authorship, where someone is credited without significant contribution. Maybe I'm, just benefiting, I'm giving the credit to my family members just because I have personal relationships. So I'm giving that honorary authorship to a person who has not contributed in any way to that research. So this is violating the ethical research practices, giving credit to peer reviewers and editors. So you have to give peer reviewers and journal editors critical feedback that improves research quality. While they remain anonymous, their role should be acknowledged in the acknowledgement section of the publication. It significantly changes that were made on the peer feedback which they gave to you, and you have to mention all this in the paper publication. Okay, so primary and secondary data sources. If we are talking about a researcher collects the primary data through surveys, experiments, or interviews, participants should be acknowledged. And when using secondary data from databases, government reports, or previous studies, the original source should be credited. Now, use of open access and public data, where many researchers rely on publicly available data sets, while these may be free to use, but they still require proper acknowledgement. Failure to credit publicly available data sources can mislead readers about the originality of the research. Coming to acknowledging the software tools or the computational resources, so the many scientific studies which are depending on specialized software like SPSS you are using, and the developers of these tools should be acknowledged. If the research involved machine learning algorithms, statistical models, or softwares like MATLAB, R, or Python libraries, the source should be cited. Cloud computing or high performance computing facilities provided by institution or external agencies should also be recognized. Now, giving the acknowledgement to the financial support and the institutional assistance where the funding agencies and the grants, government institution, private organization, which have provided the financial support for your research. They must be acknowledged in the research papers, and they should specify the grant number and the name of the funding agency. Okay, then the institutional support, the university, research labs, and the academic institution which are providing the workspace, which are giving you administrative support, their contribution should be acknowledged. The technical staff, which has, helped you, or the librarians, the lab assistants who have facilitated the research process should be given the recognition which they deserve. And in the industry and private sector contribution, if the research was conducted in collaboration with a private company or maybe the industry sponsors, their support must be acknowledged. Any proprietary data or specialized equipment provided by an external entity should be credited. Disclosure of industry support also helps identify potential conflict of interest. Okay, consequence of failing to acknowledge contributions. So, failing to acknowledge sources properly can result in serious ethical violations and academic misconduct, and the consequences are plagiarism charges. Not crediting the original author's work can lead to allegations of plagiarism, damaging a researcher's reputation and credibility. Institutions may impose penalties such as rejection of the research work, academic suspension, or revocation of degrees. Next consequence can be intellectual property disputes, where if a researcher fails to acknowledge co-authors or contributors, it may lead to legal disputes over IPR. Authors who claim sole credits for contributive research may face lawsuit or copyright infringement claims. You might also lose the funding and institutional support, where the funding agencies or institutions which require proper acknowledgement of their support, failure to do this, they may withdraw the grant or maybe they may place future funding restrictions on your research. The journals and conferences may retract the published paper if ethical breaches in acknowledgement are discovered. So, if it is found that in the later stage of your published work there are ethical breaches, the journals or the conferences have every right that they can pull out your publication and remove from their website on the basis of the ethical grounds being challenged. Okay, then coming to the ethical violations and damage to academic integrity. So here, ethical misconduct in acknowledgement undermines trust in research findings. It may lead to a loss of credibility within the academic and professional community. Coming to plagiarism in research, which is the most, serious issues, which is ethical violation, where we are using the unauthorized use of reproduction of somebody else's ideas, words, data, or intellectual word without giving appropriate credit. So it is not that I am taking the words or sentences or phrases from somebody's else's research. Even if I'm stealing an idea, maybe I have gone through a research paper and I gain an idea out of it. But it I cannot claim that that idea was my original idea, because that idea which I've obtained is from studying somebody else's work. That idea was not originally mine. So now it is not only that I've copied some sentences from that work, it is also about that I cannot copy any ideas from somebody else's work and claim that that idea was originally mine. So here, when plagiarism is undermining the integrity of research, damages credibility and can result in severe academic and legal consequences. So if I talk about different types of plagiarism, okay, so it can take various forms. The plagiarism, the direct plagiarism, where we are talking when we are copying the sentence, paragraph, or entire section from another work without citation. So this form of academic dishonesty can lead to paper retraction, penalties, or loss of credibility. Another type of plagiarism is mosaic plagiarism or patch writing, that involves taking phrases or ideas from multiple sources and rewording them slightly without proper attribution. Even though this is not direct copying, it is still unethical because the original author's intellectual effort is not acknowledged in this. So, mosaic plagiarism, that is copying of idea and general structure of the concept by someone, changing the phrases and words like using synonyms or without quoting. Self-plagiarism, very important when we are talking about the duplicate publication, which happens when the researcher republishes their previous work without proper citation or acknowledgement. While self-referencing is allowed, presenting old research as new violates ethical research standards. So, for example, if I say that I published some work in 2008 and then in 2025, I just take a part of that research and I republish that. So I'm claiming that the work of 2008 in 2025 is new, but that was my work only, but I cannot present that old work as new. Then talking about accidental plagiarism, which is another concern where the improper citation or paraphrasing leads to unintentional ethical violations. Even if unintended, researchers must be cautious and follow citation guidelines to avoid such mistakes. Lastly, paraphrasing without attribution occurs when a researcher rewrites another person's ideas in their own words but fails to acknowledge the source. Even if the wording is changed, failing to credit the original work is considered as plagiarism. Coming to ethical implications, so plagiarism is just not an academic offense. It has serious ethical consequences that affect the credibility and reliability of research. It is a direct violation of academic integrity, which is built on the principles of honesty, originality, and transparency. Engaging in plagiarism distorts the research process and misleads readers regarding the true contributions of a study. The consequences extend beyond the individual as the researchers found guilty of plagiarism may face academic suspension, loss of funding, or retraction of published papers. In addition, universities and institutions associated with plagiarism scandals suffer reputational damage and loss of credibility. So now coming to the role of plagiarism detection software, where the rise of digital tools, plagiarism detection software has become an essential part of academic research workflows and which they are helping to identify and prevent unethical practices. So when we are working on using these tools, they are comparing the submitted content against the vast database of published work, which is existing works, that is journals, books, and online resources. They highlight the match text, providing a similarity percentage that helps in assessing the originality. So advanced algorithms differentiate between properly cited references and uncreditedly copied content, helping the researchers to refine their work before submission. So you can get a plagiarism report where the percentage of similarity will be defined, and on the basis of that, you can rectify your work and before publishing. So there are, Turnitin is one of the most popular platform which is used by universities to check academic papers for originality. Grammarly can be used. Journals and publishers, they often rely on Authenticate, which is more sophisticated and more reliable. So also the FlagScan and Urkund are commonly used, especially in the Indian universities, to detect and prevent plagiarism. These tools help the researchers identify unintentional plagiarism that might have occurred, ensuring originality and meet the ethical requirements of the journals and the institution. Coming to Indian context, where there are guidelines which are prevailing to prevent plagiarism, and the UGC Plagiarism Guidelines 2018 mandate that the universities are now following, which is use of plagiarism detection softwares to verify the research work. And different level of plagiarism are categorized with varying penalties. So plagiarism below 10% is acceptable. But when we talk about 10 to 40% plagiarism, they require minor revisions. And where the cases where 40 to 60%, so you have to make major corrections, but anything above 60% can lead to paper rejection, suspension, or other severe consequences. So NEP 2020 also emphasizes academic integrity, requiring institutions to ensure plagiarism-free research. Ethical publishing practices are encouraged to enhance India's global research reputation. Coming to now the authorship. When we talk about the authorship, who has actually ethically contributed? So the first author or the primary author is the individual who has contributed the most to the research, including developing the research question, conducting experiments, collecting and analyzing data, and drafting the manuscript. This position is highly prestigious in academic publishing as it signifies the main contributor to the study. In some cases, joint first authorship may be assigned when two or more individuals have made equal contributions. So the second we talk about is the corresponding author, where the corresponding author serve as a primary contact between the research team and the journal. This author is responsible for handling submissions, revisions, peer review, correspondence, and addressing queries post-publication. The corresponding author's job is to ensure that all the co-authors agree on the final manuscript before submission and often assumes the responsibility for managing conflict of interest or ethical compliance issues. Now, when we talk about the senior or the last author, so particularly in sciences, the last author is often the principal investigator or the senior researchers who supervise the study. This position is associated with leadership and mentorship, signifying the individual who provided overall guidance, secured funding, and ensured the integrity of research. Now, coming to the co-authors. The co-authors are the researchers who have made substantial contribution to the study but not qualify as the first or the last author. Their contribution must involve um, maybe experimental design, data collection, statistical analysis, or the critical revision of the manuscript. So these co-authors share responsibility for the validity of the research findings and must ensure that they have reviewed and approved the final version of the manuscript. Coming to finally the checklist, what is to be, checked before a checklist that we publish our work and the things we need to consider before publishing our work. So disclosure of the conflict of interest where all funding sources and non-financial support, including equipment, reagents, and services have been acknowledged in the manuscript. All financial and personal interests that may be affected by the publication of the study have been declared in the manuscript submittal letter and in the acknowledgement section of the manuscript. Okay, so avoid plagiarism, self-plagiarism, or text recycling, where we have to, all studies and publications are cited in your manuscript. All verbatim language, including the author's own published text, is appropriately cited. All and then paraphrasing of the text and ideas, and you must appropriately cite any studies relevant to your work in your manuscript if you are quoting text from another publication. Even if it is not your own, you must cite the source and put the words into quotation marks unless they are paraphrased. Okay, so uh, what is important to note here is that even if you cite a reference, you should not copy directly from it without quotation marks. Alternatively, you could paraphrase the quoted text such that it is not simply a word to word copy of the original. Paraphrasing is acceptable, but only if you credit the source. Without due attribution, paraphrasing can qualify as a form of plagiarism. So, if you want to reproduce or adapt figures or tables from another publication, you must obtain permission from the copyright owner of that figure and cite the source in your manuscript. And the copyright owner is often the journal publisher, not the author.
अरे वही
Al-
मैडम ये परेशान कर रही है स्टूडेंट बैठा
can you please mute? I think somebody's microphone is on. Okay, so if you are wanting to reuse or adapt your own figure, if you have transferred copyright to the journal, you must get permission from the journal before you can reuse it. However, open access journals that publish under a Creative Commons license allow the author to retain the copyright. So just check the small print of it. Avoid inappropriate image manipulation. So if the submitted figures and tables show original data, linear adjustment to the contrast, brightness, or color if used, or the author may be liable for the copyright infringement. So, are applied to the entire image. Unless fully disclosed, explained, or demarcated, no portion of the figures have to be removed or deleted, concealed, duplicated, means that is cut and paste, added, selectively enhanced, repositioned, non-linear adjustment made to the images are fully disclosed and explained in the figure legend. Appropriate tooling has to be used to demarcate individual images that have been compiled to make a figure, description and explanations for any such compilation that are described in the figure legend. You must not submit your manuscript to more than one journal at the same time. You must not submit your manuscript to a new journal while waiting for a decision from the first journal you have submitted to. You can risk duplication if multiple journals accept the same manuscript for publication by virtue of you having made multiple submissions. So avoid duplicate and redundant publications. You must not translate a publication into another language and submit it to another journal unless you have the permission from the original publisher and you inform the second publisher that this is a translation of the work which is already published. So if you are preparing a secondary publication, maybe using a data set from which you have already produced a publication, you must ensure that both the manuscripts address unique and important research questions. The previous manuscript is cited where appropriate. The journal editor is informed about the previous publication in the cover letter, and it is unacceptable to attempt to publish a previous publication in a different journal because the journal has already published the article, usually owns the copyright of that published work. So redundant publication also wastes the reviewers and readers' time and may create a misleading impression. For example, that there were several studies rather than just one. Okay, so if you are creating multiple copies of that researches, so actually it was a one study, but it was portrayed from several angles. When submitting a secondary publication, it is good to practice to include a copy of the previous publication with your cover letter so that the editor can judge the amount of overlap. So this is all from my side. Just adding one more point to it that when you are talking about the plagiarism software, Turnitin. So in that Turnitin, now it is giving you an option to check the AI content also. So here, when we use the Turnitin report, that is the plagiarism report. So it is not only giving us the percentage of the copied content, but now it is giving us the percentage of the copied content from AI that is not generated by us, but it is a chat GPT maybe displayed. So that is also important that you are using Turnitin for generating the AI report also. So this is all from my side. Thank you so much. I'll just join from another account so that my video is visible. I just logged out from there.
No problem, ma'am. Thank you,
Yeah.
ma'am. Thank you very much.
Floor is
Mas-
now open for questions and answers. In case anybody has any questions, you may either write it in the chat box or unmute yourselves and ask, ma'am.
मैम आप चैट बॉक्स में देख लीजिए अगर किसी का कोई क्वेश्चन होता है
जी सर जी nothing in the chat box.
Okay. Participants, if you have any question, please you can ask. मैम तब तक मैंने आपके लिए एक सर्टिफिकेट तैयार किया, प्लीज एक्सेप्ट
Thank
इट.
you so much.
हाँ, मैं इसको मेल कर दूंगा आपको
जी
व्हाट्सएप
जी कोई भी
पर.
queries हो regarding nowadays Turnitin is very effective and in our university also we are using Turnitin. तो उसमें क्या है, आपका एआई का रिपोर्ट भी आ जाता है, क्योंकि आजकल स्टूडेंट्स को है ना कि हम लोग चैट जीपीटी यूज करें और असाइनमेंट्स जो है जनरेट कर लें,
जी
एंड द स्टूडेंट्स आर रिलक्टेंट टू राइट। पहले तो हम लोग लिखना भूले क्योंकि टाइपिंग आ गई, और अब हम बिल्कुल सोचना भी भूल गए हैं, क्योंकि अब जो है एक लाइन दीजिए तो पूरा कंटेंट आपके पास आ जाता है।
राइट सर, राइट
तो
मैम।
अब द सॉफ्टवेयर इज सो स्मार्ट दैट इट इज कैचिंग दैट पार्ट ऑल्सो। ये अब आपका एआई जनरेटेड रिपोर्ट भी आ जाता है कि अगर 20% से ज्यादा आपने चैट जीपीटी से एक्सट्रैक्ट किया है तो वो भी आपका एआई कंटेंट में काउंट हो जाता है। एंड देयर आर सॉफ्टवेयर विच आर क्रैकिंग दैट ऑल्सो। तो हर चीज का तोड़ हम सोचते हैं कि हमारे पास ही है, बट द आईटी इंडस्ट्री इज सो टेक savvy that they are finding alternatives कि आप वहां से भी कंटेंट कॉपी नहीं कर सकते हैं।
जी
तो किसी का आइडिया लेना बुरी बात नहीं है, बट ये है कि ड्यू एक्नॉलेजमेंट हम जरूर दें, और किसी के काम को अगर हम क्रेडिट दें तो वो एक प्लेजारिज्म हम अवॉइड कर सकते हैं।
राइट।
जी।
Thank you. I think Malvika ma'am, there is no other questions. Let's move ahead.
Yes. Thank you so much, ma'am, for this enlightening sessions. And I may please call upon Mr. Pramod Goyal, PhD Research Scholar, Mahavir University, Meerut, to deliver the vote of thanks for ma'am.
Thank you, Malvika ji. Good afternoon, everyone. Respected today's resource person, Dr. Smriti Malhotra ji, Professor Dr. Shivpal Singh sir, who is Professor and Dean of Faculty of Education, Mahavir University, Meerut, esteemed speaker, and dear participants. Myself, Advocate Pramod Devatram Goyal, PhD Research Scholar from Mahavir University, Meerut. As we come to the close of this 8th day of our 10-day National Seminar on Research Methodology in Humanities and Social Science, it is my honor and privilege to deliver this vote of thanks. Today's session has been exceptionally insightful, and for that we owe our deepest gratitude to our esteemed resource person, Dr. Smriti Malhotra. She is Assistant Professor at MIT Institute of Education, MIT University, Noida, Uttar Pradesh. Ma'am, your lecture on theme ethical publishing has been truly enlightening. You have not only clarified the foundation principle of developing a strong base through authorship, plagiarism, but also provided practical guidance of it in research integrity. Your comprehensive explanation of ethical publishing, authorship, plagiarism, and research integrity, its planning and executing has greatly enriched our understanding and equipped us with valuable tools that will certainly support our future research endeavors. On behalf of all participants, I express our heartfelt appreciation for your time, expertise, and dedication to nation youth researchers like me. I would also like to extend my sincere thanks to the workshop organizer, Dr. Shivpal Singh sir, who is Professor and Dean of Faculty of Education, Mahavir University, Meerut, and coordinators like Malvika ji and others, whose tireless efforts have ensured the smooth conduct of this program. Your meticulous planning has made today's session both fruitful and engaging. My gratitude further goes to the faculty member, technical team, and support staff for the continuous assistance and cooperation throughout the event. To all the participants, thank you for your active involvement. Although there were no queries, but still I thank them because I think everybody understood what was told and enthusiastic participation. Your engagement adds immense value to this session and motivates us to continue creating meaningful learning platforms. Once again, I offer my profound thanks to Dr. Smriti Malhotra ji for her invaluable contribution. We look forward to continue learning and inspiration in the days ahead. Thank you all and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Pramodji. May I please request everyone to stand for the national anthem now?
जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Thank you, everybody. I'm sure you benefited from the session. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Thank you,
Thank you so
Asha ji,
much.
Pramod ji.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank
so
you very
much.
much.
Thank you. Thank you for the invite. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.